He was once a brilliant chemist, capable of producing meth so pure that even DEA agents were stunned. But behind the science, was a cold-blooded killer. 5 people would die. 2 of them were children. And the mastermind? A man who thought he could outsmart the law forever. Dustin Lee Honken was born in 1968, in Britt, Iowa, a quiet rural town with little crime. From a young age, he stood out not for violence, but for intelligence. He was quiet, bookish, and obsessed with chemistry. He even built his own lab setups in his parents' basement. But instead of pursuing a legitimate career, Honken saw opportunity in the drug world. In the late 1980s and early 90s, methamphetamine was booming across the Midwest. Honken taught himself how to make meth with near laboratory precision, some batches testing over 95% pure. It was so pure, even federal agents later admitted they were impressed. And he wasn't doing it alone. Honken recruited an old friend, and later, a woman who would become his lover and his partner in murder, Angela Johnson. By 1993, Dustin Honken's meth empire was thriving. But the walls were closing in. Federal agents had flipped 2 key dealers, both ready to testify against him. Even worse, his ex-girlfriend Lori Duncan had agreed to cooperate with authorities. To Honken, it wasn't just betrayal. It was a threat. And he had only one solution: elimination. What followed was one of the most cold-blooded decisions in Iowa's criminal history. On July 25, 1993, 5 people vanished. 2 federal informants. Lori Duncan. And her 2 daughters, Kundi, 10, and Amber, just 6 years old. There were no bodies. No witnesses. Just silence. And fear. For 7 years, the truth remained buried. Literally. For 7 long years, the case went cold. The victims simply vanished, no bodies, no evidence, no answers. But in 2000, a chilling break emerged, not from evidence, but from a confession. Angela Johnson, Honken's former lover and accomplice, was arrested on unrelated drug charges. While in jail, she began to talk. To another inmate, she detailed the murders, the burial sites, and how Dustin had taken care of it all. The tip led federal agents to a quiet cornfield outside Mason City, Iowa. There, beneath the soil, they found them. One by one. 5 bodies. Buried deep. Forgotten, but not gone. The nation was stunned. It wasn't just a murder case anymore, it was a hidden mass grave. In 2004, Dustin Lee Honken stood trial for the murders of 5 people. Prosecutors called him one of the most calculated and dangerous criminals Iowa had ever seen. The evidence built from Angela Johnson's confession, forensics, and years of investigation was overwhelming. Witnesses described him as manipulative, cold, and terrifyingly intelligent. He showed no emotion in court, no regret, no apology. To many, it was like watching a man who had already disconnected from humanity. On October 27, 2004, Dustin Honken was sentenced to death by lethal injection. He became the first Iowan in 40 years to receive a federal death sentence. Dustin Lee Honken spent nearly 16 years on death row. During that time, he became increasingly religious, reportedly studying the Bible and writing long letters about redemption. But even in his final days, he never admitted guilt, never publicly apologized. Instead, he stayed silent. Cold. Still calculating. On July 17, 2020, at the U.S. Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, Honken was executed by lethal injection. He was 52 years old. For his last meal, he requested a chicken barbecue pizza, vanilla ice cream, and a bottle of root beer. He barely touched it. In his final written words, he claimed to have found God and believed he would be forgiven. Some saw Dustin Lee Honken as nothing more than a monster, a man who murdered without mercy, including children. Others questioned whether his final years of religious devotion meant anything. Was it redemption, or manipulation? He never said sorry. He never looked back. He died in silence. But what lingers, is the question of justice. Can a man who buried 2 little girls and their mother ever truly be forgiven? Is it possible for faith to outweigh blood? Or are some sins simply too great to wash away? You decide. What do you think about Dustin Lee Honken? Leave a comment below and tell us your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more real true crime stories.